My name's Andy, and this is the most magical podcast on earth. When I'm not on holiday at Walt Disney World, I'm planning a holiday to Disney. And when I'm not planning a holiday to Disney, I'm talking about Disney with other UK fans like me who make the trip to Orlando and the House of the Mouse. So if you too are mad about Mickey, well, this is the podcast for you. Or maybe you're the Disney novice, the fan who's just thinking about maybe planning your first ever trip to Walt Disney World, and you think the sound of it is something quite atrocious. Well, then this really is the podcast for you. Each episode, I'll be chatting to other Disney superfans from around the UK to share their memories of their own magical times. And this week's guest, Kayla, could quite easily have been banned from Walt Disney World for life if this had have happened.
Goofy sneaking up on my dad, putting his hands over his eyes, and my dad turning around and nearly punching him in the face.
Also going to be answering your Walt Disney World questions, getting the latest news and events from the parks that are happening right now, and maybe a few top tips thrown in there as well. And make sure you keep in touch with us. Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, we are at PodMagical. This is the most magical podcast on earth, part of the Secret Recordings Network. You can get in touch here anytime on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, PodMagical, if you want to be a podcast guest or you've got any questions or maybe you just want to say hello. Thank you very much, by the way, people who have said hello. We've had a email from somebody who's listening in the Netherlands who loves it. Hello to Isabel in the Netherlands who's picking up all the top tips from the podcast. Hi as well to a few people who've given us some amazing reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you could give us a 5-star review, by the way, and leave a comment that just helps people find the podcast a bit more. So thank you if you've done that. Hello to Bixie Girl, who found us during lockdown and it's provided happy vibes. Looking forward to our next Disney trip. Thank you for your 5-star reviews. If you could do that on Apple Podcast, that's brilliant. And of course, if you've got any questions, you can either put them on those comment sections on Apple Podcast, or you can get in touch on one of our social channels like Mike has done. We've cancelled 2 Walt Disney World holidays now, Andy. So we've got quite a bit of money in the bank. And the next time we go, we'd like to splurge on something special. We've been to Disney a few times. We'd like to do something a bit out of the ordinary. Any ideas what we could splurge our money on? Well, there's a lot of things to splurge on at Walt Disney World, but it depends how much money you've got. What kind of splurge are you talking? Because, I mean, if you've got enough money for a holiday and you've got enough money in the bank for another holiday, then my splurge would be go to Walt Disney World twice. Some things you can do, I love a dessert party. Happily ever after, when that comes back, the dessert parties are always good. It's a special treat, especially if you've got a birthday or an anniversary. If you've been to Walt Disney World a few times, maybe consider doing one of the tours, the Keys to the Kingdom tour, where they take you backstage at Magic Kingdom and underneath the Magic Kingdom through the Utilidors. That is brilliant as well, and it doesn't ruin the magic. If you've been quite a few times, it doesn't ruin the magic. I think it helps you realise how wonderful the magic is and how it's created. So there's a couple of things you could do. Maybe you want to upgrade to the Grand Floridian, maybe if it's just for one night and have that theme park view. Although if you're a light sleeper, you may not want to do that. And I'll tell you why at the very end of this podcast. You might not want to stay at Grand Floridian if you're a light sleeper. But there's some ideas. There's many things you can do. You can even rent a boat when they do the new fireworks at Epcot. You can even rent a boat and have a private viewing from a boat. There are so many things you can do. You can even get married, Disney's fairy tale wedding, if that's where you want, or you want to renew your vows. A lot of things to spend your money on. Enjoy when you do go next, and let us know what you've treated yourself to, Mike. Of course, if you've got any questions, let me know. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, PodMagical is where we are. Same place to go if you want to be a podcast guest like Kayla. So Kayla, we'll talk some more about your Walt Disney World memories and what you love. But first of all, let's find out, why do you love Walt Disney World? I
think it's the attention to detail for me, all the little things that they really care about your experience.
Mickey Mouse goes above and beyond,
Definitely,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
For us. So when was the first time you went? When was the last time you went?
I was 6 the first time in 95. Our family holiday, yeah.
And do you remember much about?
I remember a few things. I remember our character dining and Goofy sneaking up on my dad, putting his hands over his eyes, and my dad turning around and nearly punching him in the face.
Oh, now that would have been a story to tell people. Yeah, but the time my dad punched Goofy in the face. Oh, wow. So where was the character meals? Were they the same ones like they have now? Was it like Chef Mickey's and Crystal Palace and stuff like that?
It looks, in the photos, it does look like a dated version of them, so it must be, I think, Chef Mickey maybe. I can't remember.
Isn't it funny when you look back at some of the photos like from the 90s and you go, Mickey Mouse looks a little bit weird back. Like, the earlier you go back, the stranger it looks. Yeah. And you've also been for your honeymoon as well, haven't you?
We had, yeah. We went in, I think it was 2017 for our honeymoon.
Right.
We weren't planning to go to Disney. We were actually planning to have a road trip. but because the Hurricane Irma came in, our friend told us to stay at Disney Springs. He said it was the safest place to shelter from the hurricane.
Okay.
And there's nothing else to do because basically you're kind of on lockdown, waiting for it to come in. But Disney was still open the day before,
right,
for 2 days, and was open the day after. And my husband said, "Shall we go?" I didn't want to nag him because he's definitely not the type to go to Disney.
Right.
And now I've converted him, and now he just wants to keep going every year, or every year.
That hurricane was meant to be. That was sent your way for a reason.
It was definitely, yeah.
So what made him actually want to go then? Or was like deep down inside, you're like, okay, we're in Orlando, I really want to go, but I don't want to push him.
Yeah.
Was that what it
we
was
were
like?
sat at breakfast and I'm thinking, I really, there's nothing else to do. I really want to go to Disney. We're here. We're right by Disney Springs.
Yeah.
We can just get on the bus from this hotel. And I think we saw the counter that was selling the tickets, and he's like, "Oh, shall we go? There's nothing else to do." Yes, yes. We
so,
shall.
which part did you go to first? Was it Magic Kingdom?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And because it was dead, everyone must have cancelled their trips.
Yeah.
So there was no one there. So we managed to do all 4 parks in 2 days.
Oh wow!
And definitely did not appreciate how quiet it was.
Yeah, you can just blitz everything when there's nobody there, can't you?
And there's a few things shut. I think perhaps they were getting ready for it.
So how long were you going to be in Orlando for anyway? Was it just going to be a day?
Yeah, we were there for a few days. And we went to Universal, and then they said the hurricane was coming as we were about to drive down to the Keys. And our friend lives near NASA, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. They always say there's hurricane coming and they never land. It's fine. I'm not worried." And then he texted us a couple of days later, "Yeah, I think actually I was wrong."
Yeah.
You need to prepare.
That was definitely wrong.
Yeah.
So what was it like being in Orlando during a hurricane?
I think it was fine. I definitely don't think it's as bad as they tell you when you're in England. All of our friends were messaging us "Are you okay? You're going to be there's a hurricane coming," but they get them all the time, so they're so prepared for it.
Yeah.
We slept through it.
You slept through it?
Yeah.
I think you hear the word hurricane and you immediately think Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I think there's a house got to land on me at any time.
I was worried about our rental car taking off in the car park, but in the morning we're we missed it.
Whereabouts did you stay on that trip?
We were in the Best Western, so it was just a short walk up from Disney Springs.
Right, so you could literally walk to it.
Yeah, so when it was open, they do shuttle buses to the parks more often than perhaps other places do.
Yeah.
I guess because they're so close, you could just walk up and use their transport anyway.
Oh yeah, nobody will ask, will they? So let's talk about some of your favourite Walt Disney World things then. In fact, let's talk about your favourite memory. If you've been as a kid, you've been during a hurricane, you've been for your honeymoon, have you got one particular standout memory of anything that's happened?
It's probably mainly my dad nearly punching Goofy.
Yeah.
but also seeing my husband realise that actually it's nothing like you imagine. If you're not a Disney fan, it's still perfectly acceptable to enjoy it, to enjoy all those little things that makes it all special.
Have you got to go back since with him?
Yeah, we went last year with our 6-month-old and his parents. Well, obviously you have to take babysitters with you when you're taking a child.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. September 2019.
Right, so still you managed to squeeze it in before the world went
Yeah,
a little bit crazy.
Before,
And where did you stay on that trip?
Coronado Springs.
Oh, okay, and what was that like?
It was really nice, actually. It was quite a big hotel, and I was a bit worried about all of the stops on the bus. They have 4 bus stops.
Yeah.
But I think the time of year that we went, all the kids are going back to school, so the bus was never full. We always managed to get on it, unless we were at the first stop at the tower. That was quite busy to try and get on.
What was it like taking a buggy and a 6-month-old?
It was I'm very lucky that he was pretty chilled. So it wasn't too bad, but we did take quite a big buggy. It was not perhaps the best idea because it wasn't easy to collapse. I thought he's going to spend all day sat in it.
Yeah, I would say now if you've got a buggy, I would go probably Caribbean Beach because you've got the Skyliner there.
I was looking at that and you can fit your buggy on the Skyliner.
Push it straight on.
Yeah, I thought that would be the dream.
Yeah.
Not have to worry about taking him out when he's sleeping.
Yeah, it's just when you go to Magic Kingdom or Epcot.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Epcot is one of the things on the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom that you would have to get on the buses for or hire a car. To take a quick break for the news, and we're back with Kayla and more Disney memories from you in a moment. Big news for Disneyland, the original park over in California, which after a year of being closed has finally got its opening date. It will reopen on the 30th of April. But there are rumours that you won't be allowed to scream on the roller coasters. Meanwhile, back to Florida, Orlando. Happening right now over at Walt Disney World is the Flower and Garden Festival at Epcot. Blizzard Beach has finally reopened. It's the first Disney water park to open its doors since they closed for the pandemic. And also we've got an opening date for Ratatouille. Obviously for us in the UK, we've been on the Ratatouille one in France, but now you can go to it in the France Pavilion. The 1st of October is the official opening date for Remy's Ratatouille adventure over at Epcot, which is also the date that Walt Disney World celebrates its 50th birthday. So it's part of the big 50th birthday celebrations. Also, that area of France behind the France Pavilion is going to be fully open. So the new creperie and the new dine-in and take-out restaurant all going to be open as well at the same time as Remy's Ratatouille adventure. Also, we've got some new pictures for Moana-themed rooms that are coming to the Polynesian Village Resort. Disney have given some of those rooms a bit of a makeover and they are more Moana inspired. It's not quite in your face Moana, but there's definitely a Polynesian Hawaiian feeling in there with a touch of Moana. And there was excitement for us in the UK early this week, particularly people who want to buy Disney World annual passes. Annual passes haven't been on sale now for a year, but a glitch on the system meant that some people in the UK could actually buy the Platinum Pass. It turns out it was just a problem with the website. However, some people who got through but the payment didn't take have phoned Disney and have managed to buy annual passes. It's particularly important for people who are bought into DVC, because obviously if you've got DVC you couldn't use the points last year, and a lot of people are trying to cram in as many trips as they can to make sure they can use their DVC points, and so getting the annual pass is going to be useful for them. And so some people have tried to phone Disney and they've got their annual passes, fingers crossed they're going to be able to use them. 12th of April, by the way, is when the UK government is going to set out its roadmap for international travel. And again, that depends on what happens in the UK, whether they let us in, of course. If they do, we'll be the first to let you know. Keep up to date with our socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Pod Magical is where we are. Same place to go if you want to be a podcast guest like this week's guest. So let's go into the parks with you now. Let's talk about your favourite attraction. What could you pick out as your favourite?
I think everyone says the Flight of Passage.
Yeah.
But for me, last time we went, I think because we've been a few times and we've been able to ride it a few times, my husband caught my attention and pointed out you can see the other riders if you look across. I wouldn't do this on your first ride, but watching everyone else enjoy it was really cool as well.
I do that all the time on things when I've been on a few times, and then like I'm looking behind me to see how it works, and I'm like that bit on Everest, the bit I mean on Everest when it changes. Yeah. I'm like, how is this going? Where is it? And then later on Flight of Passage, you go, oh, there's all these people and they're all in rows around me. Yeah.
I'm normally so engrossed in that. Every other ride I'm looking, but in that one I'm so engrossed, and he had to catch my attention. Like, I look over there and like seeing them enjoy it. It was
that is quite a good ride though. Distracting you from the people around you. It just seems to like zone you in, doesn't it? You really get
a bit of tunnel vision on there, I think.
Regardless of where you are, if you're in the middle or if you're at the top right or bottom left, it's wherever you are, you seem to be in the. I think that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
And what about any like parades or shows that you like?
Fantasmic. That was definitely our favourite show, I think. The performance, I think that you really feel engaged in it. A bit more so than, I don't want to say just standing and looking at the castle, because it's a bit more than that, but you're just watching that show and the fireworks, and it's not quite the same as when there's cast members involved, I think, and watching the characters coming out.
Yeah, on the boat at the end.
Yeah, I think
that's one of my favourite first night things to do. Fantasmic.
Yeah, it was
when you
really
get off
good.
the plane and you go, I've got to keep awake, so I'm going to sit outside and I'm going to watch this, even though in my head it's 3:00 in the morning.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how anyone stays awake after that long flight.
So do you go straight to bed when you've got off the plane?
I do get, and this probably sounds really stupid, I get a bit of like flight sickness. Like you get seasickness. Yeah. I feel really weird and just have to go to bed.
Straight to bed, sleep off, and then you're awake at 4 a.m. and ready to go. Yeah. Hit the parks.
Yeah, that's it. Then you're recharged, you're ready, and you kind of, I feel like I settle into the time difference a bit better.
Yeah,
just
a lot of people say that.
Sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, stay in kind of like that early mode gets you through.
Yeah.
Is there anything that when you first went, even though you were only 6 and it was the 90s, is there anything that they used to have that they no longer have? Anything that you miss that they've got rid of?
Characters walking around the parks. Just that stood out so much to me as a kid. I don't remember queuing really to meet any of them because they're just always wandering around.
I think they might have brought that back
Have
a
they now?
little bit. Yeah, but not in like that. I don't think that's going to be a permanent thing.
Yeah.
And like Disneyland Paris and Anaheim, they have that as well. But it's a shame they don't have that, just that spontaneous.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's a few rare characters just popping up on Main Street, would be quite cute, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That was really exciting. The sort of, oh, look, I've spotted them and I've got to go and meet them and get their signature.
Running up for an autograph.
Yeah.
Have you got any guilty pleasures? Things that you would be like normally embarrassed to say that you really like, but you actually quite secretly love?
Got to be It's a Small World. And I quite enjoy knowing that's going to be stuck in everyone's head all day long.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, I don't really want to go on this ride, but I really want to go on this ride, even though I know.
Took my in-laws on it and I was sort of sniggering on the way over. What are you laughing at? Oh, nothing.
What about restaurants, by the way? We haven't talked about food.
We were on the dining plan last time. I think it was really good. It's really nice not to have to worry about it.
Especially if it's free.
Yeah. I think my favourite is the deluxe burger place at Disney Springs.
Oh, deluxe burger, yeah.
I do love a burger, and they are definitely the best.
They can be quite hit and miss, can't they, in Disney? Burgers and pizzas, even though like people think of theme parks as places to go for burgers and pizzas and chips.
They are typical fast food everywhere else.
Deluxe burger for proper gourmet burgers. Good milkshakes.
Yeah. And the Polite Pig.
Polite Pig is also really good as well for barbecue food. And apparently the new one in Epcot, if you like Polite Pig, the new quick service in Epcot, the American Pavilion, is also apparently very good. And what about getting outside Disney? Do you, especially if you've had a car, where else do you like to go around Orlando or Florida?
Normally spend a couple days at Universal Studios. I feel like you can do everything quite quickly there at the right time of year.
Mm-hmm. Would you stay there or would you just commute over?
I think it's quite easy to commute over. I'm quite happy to drive, but perhaps if there are a few of you, it might be easier to just stay, get the early access to the parks.
And when you were on your honeymoon, where else were you supposed to be going? You mentioned the Keys. Have you been there before?
No, I hadn't been before, but we didn't book anything. We only booked our first couple nights and then we were just going to sort of drive down along the coast down to Miami and down to the Keys, but I hadn't been there before and wanted to see the Everglades.
So is that on your hit list for a return trip?
Yeah, one day might be able to stretch it to 3 weeks.
Is that going to be combined with a Walt Disney World trip?
Definitely. You can't go all that way and not. You have to go to Disney World when you're over there.
As you found out last time.
Yes.
So that 3 weeks we'll do road trip first, Miami, Keys, Everglades, and then back to Orlando.
Yeah, I think so. Finish on a high.
Finish on the high. Otherwise you'd just be driving around going, let's just turn the car around. Yeah. I don't want to go to Key West. It's too far away. Have you got another trip in mind? I know everything at the minute is a bit strange. Would you kind of like thinking, we may go back in maybe a few years or whatever?
We'd love to go next year, but I still think that's going to be too soon.
How old's the little one?
I have 2 now.
Oh, right. Okay.
I have one that's nearly 2. And then my second is 7 months old.
So a little bit. But, so you need to kind of go like when they're 4 or 5.
I think so,
to cut costs.
Yeah. I said to my mum, we'd already booked to go when I was pregnant with my first. And mum said, are you sure you want to be going now? Like, he's only little. He's not going to remember it. So, if I could leave him at home, I probably would.
You would?
They're too little. She's right. But actually, it was magical seeing him enjoy it, even if he has no idea what's happening.
Exactly. I said this before when people say, is it too young to take them because they won't remember it? I said they won't remember it, but you'll remember their reactions to things.
Purely for you. It's definitely not for them at that age.
Definitely. Well, it's lovely chatting to you.
And to you.
Thanks for sharing your Walt Disney World stories and have a magical day.
Have a magical day.
And if you fancy talking about Walt Disney World on one of our episodes, all you need to do is send me a message. Facebook, Twitter or Instagram is where we are. Say, I fancy coming on the podcast and chat Walt Disney World, Andy. Give me a shout. We'll sort out a time. We'll record you and we'll get you on to share your joy of Walt Disney World. The top tip for this episode is especially really good if you're a light sleeper like me, or you like to go back in the afternoon for a nap, or maybe you've got a little one who wants a little nap. If you're thinking about staying on property, you want to stay at one of the Walt Disney World resorts or Walt Disney World Hotel, don't pay for a water view room if you're a light sleeper. Firstly, to pay for a water view room, it's going to be more than your average room, but also it's going to be noisier. Water view rooms are very noisy, particularly if you're staying at the wonderful Grand Floridian Resort. I mean, it's great. You might get a water view of the lake, or you might even get a view of the castle, but please bear in mind that those boats that go from the parking lot to the Magic Kingdom will keep going all day, every day, and through the night, and they like to honk their horns and make a noise. So it might sound beautiful and it might look peaceful, but when you think about it at night or very early in the morning when those boats start, it's going to be quite noisy. Same as the other hotels as well. If you're staying in a water view room, they might put you with a view of the pool, and in the afternoon, if you're having a bit of a nap, those pool parties, when they crank up the music when they're having fun, they can be a little bit noisy. So if you're a bit of a light sleeper or you want an afternoon nap, maybe think about not getting a water view room. I know, that theme park view though from Grand Floridian, what am I going to do? Of course, if you've got any top tips, I'd love to hear yours. We can share them on the podcast. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is where we are. Pod Magical is what you need to look for. If you could give us a follow, that will be brilliant. Also, if you could follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you're with us so that you don't miss a single moment of the podcast. If you're new to the podcast as well, there are so many to catch up on. Go right back to the start when we used to talk about things like the dining plan and fast passes. Remember those? Hit that subscribe button. We're back every other Friday with more magical memories on the podcast. And until then, please stand clear of the doors.